What's up, everyone? I'm C.L. Connolly. I'm an indie author of the Affair series and the lone title, Friendly Misfortunes. As y'all saw in my last video, I did have Forbidden Affair already out. That is the first book in the Affair series. And Family Affair just came to me today, which today is the 9th. And by the time you're seeing this, it's later than that. But this is Family Affair. This is the second book in the Affair series. Here is the cover. So you can see she is still missing her leg. And this over here, that is the skin that has come off of this right here. That's in the book. And there we go. So that is the series. At this point in time, I do have Fundamental Affair that is being edited. I've got Fruitful Affair that I am still writing. And those are the 4 books in that series. And next, I will be starting a new series, which is Killer Suburbia. In Killer Suburbia, we're going to follow around 4 different serial killers. At this point in time, because I have written a 4-book series, Killer Suburbia is only 4 books right now. I don't have the 5th. I don't have any more than that, like a 5th one or anything like that. I'm going to stop at 4. I may go further, but we'll find out how that works, because you know how characters like to change the story. So, Forbidden Affair is for sale right now on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Family Affair comes out August 14th. All right, in today's video, I'm going to go ahead and go over the steps that I take when outlining a new series, so you can kind of see what I do. It might be different for you, because I know that it's different for several other authors. This is just what's easiest for me, and this is how I like to do things. It's just my process. All right, so if we open up the notebook, I've got my 4 books already set out here. I've got book 1, book 2, book 3, and book 4. So this is already my sort of outline. This is almost like a summary for me, so that I know exactly what I want in my books. That summary it's not necessarily going to be on the back of my book. It could, but it may not actually make it there, because of the fact that, you know, my characters like to change my stories halfway through, so it ends up turning into this totally different story than what I had originally intended. So it could possibly change, even though, you know, this is what I've got written down at this point in time. Like the killer in Forbidden Affair was somebody different, but my characters changed it, decided they wanted somebody else, so that's how that happened. But for now, this is going to be the summary for each book, so I know exactly how that's going to work out for me. And then on the next page here, I've got the killers. So these are my 4 main characters. These are going to be the 4 killers. So I've got the 4 killers here. Sorry, my dog's messing with stuff. I got the 4 killers here. I've got their names and like a short little whatever their personality. So like Killer 1 is relaxed and laid back. Killer 2 is a detailed planner. So he likes to have it already planned out how he's going to murder his victims and dispose of their bodies. Killer 3 is obsessive and short-tempered. Killer 4 is generally always happy and in a good mood. So that's always, you know, it's always a good thing to have a killer who's generally happy and in a good mood. Okay, so I've got a page that's specific for my character names. For now, these are just my main characters. Once I start adding like little bit players and, you know, secondary characters, their victims and stuff like that, I'll start writing down their names and everything else. So that just keeps me in line, so that when I go from book to book to book, then I'll know exactly who was who and who killed who and all of that stuff, because I've got to keep a list of all of that to make sure that I keep that in line. The next few pages are specific for me, so we're going to go to my first tab. Okay, so this first tab here, a lot of A lot of authors like to do the 3-act process. So they've got Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. I'm doing this one in sections. I did the Affair series in Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, but I've got so much information that goes into Act 2 and Act 3 that I've got it split up into 2 separate sections for Act 2 and Act 3. So Act 1 is just Section 1, Act 2 is Section 2 and 3, and Act 3 is Section 4 and 5. That's the only difference that I have going on right there. It's still similar to the acts and the way that that works out, but it's broken down into, extra sections and everything else. So I've got Section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This here is just telling me that it's going to have 5 sections, and there's going to be multiple POVs. The Affair series is written in first person, so it's only done from one character's point of view. This is going to be done from 4 character point of views, so that way there's going to be a little extra. I've never done it in third person. I've tried, so I have, but writing is a learning curve. You can learn new things, and it's always nice to try new things, I guess you could say. Behind this tab is actually this right here. What this is like our world building. So I've got the scene set out. This is the very beginning. So I know the neighborhood that the 4 killers are going to live in, and they've got, it's got all of the information that it needs so that I know what I'm looking at when I'm going through the neighborhood that they live in. So let's say, Killer 1 is driving down the street. I know everything he's looking at on both sides of the road. And I've done it that way for a reason, so that I know what I'm looking at, and I want to be able to describe it to the reader so the reader can see what I'm looking at. As long as the reader knows what I can see, it's a little easier for them to get a visualization of, where the character actually is. And if they know where the character is, then they can actually see what's happening. It's that thing everybody's ever heard, that show don't tell type thing. So this makes it easier for me. I can actually do the show part here, or the tell. I guess I can do the tell part here. So this is telling me what it looks like. So once I go to actually put it in my book, then it's edited. So that'll give the show part. So they'll be able to see it too. You want to make sure that your reader can actually see what you see without actually having to draw a map. Because your job is technically to have them see the world through your words rather than seeing the world through, a drawing. That's the whole thing with that. The next page is going to be this is going to be the summary of book 1. So the small little short summary that you saw on the other page, this is going to be a longer drawn out summary. So this is going to basically tell me all of what book 1 is about. And it's going to go section by section. So I'm going to have each section, I do believe, yes, okay, so I do have 2 blue pages here. So this is going to go section by section. So you'll be able to see section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, and section 5. And that's all going to show up on this summary page. And this is all of the outlining process before I even start writing the book. So all of this is actually going to happen before I actually put the pen to paper to write the book. And like I said, this is my process. If it helps you, then, that's great. The only thing that I do is I make sure that I always get a lot more information out in the outlining process to make my writing process a little easier. Even if because this round, I normally do everything handwritten, and that's exactly how I wrote the Affair series. That's how I wrote Friendly Misfortunes. Everything was written by hand, and this series, I want to try to get out more information than what I did before, and I want to be able to do that so that I can actually write the entire book on my computer. Because it's easier that way than having to hand count each word that you just wrote down to figure out how many words you got in that day, in that word sprint that you did, or writing sprint that you just did. it's a little easier to be able to count when you can highlight it on the computer and be like, oh, look, it tells me how many words I've got. So I'm going to try that. That's a foreign concept to me. I've always handwritten everything, but of course I've been writing since the 80s, before computers were, homegrown, I guess you could say, in a way. So, but I do have 2 pages for each one of these books. I've got book 1, and then I've got book 2, and they're all color-coded because that's just what I do. Everything has to be color-coded. Let's see. Here is book 3. And then I've got book 4. And I do have a couple of extra pages back here in case I decide to throw in a book 5. And then I can always, purchase more of this colored paper if I decide to go on any more with that. And basically my series are usually based on like my readers and stuff. Like Forbidden Affair was supposed to be a single title because I had never really read a series. Everything that I had read was, by authors who wrote single titles. So I wasn't used to the single titles, or I wasn't used to the series, but I knew how to do a single title. So that's why I did Forbidden Affair. And then I had written Friendly Misfortunes. And then I had a reader who had actually contacted me because my email address is on the copyright page. But I did have a reader who contacted me and asked if I would be the featured author at her book club, which was actually pretty cool. My first book, and I got to be the featured author at a book club, so that was awesome. And everybody had loved it, and they wanted to know what happened. Well, what happens next? And I was like, well, I didn't really think about that, but I can see what I can do. So that's basically how Family Affair came out. And then from Family Affair, I was like, maybe I should just do a series. First, it was going to be a trilogy. So it was going to be Forbidden Affair, Family Affair, and Fruitful Affair. Unfortunately, in Fruitful Affair, there are characters that I bring up that are from before this one. So this book starts... Oh, let me see. I'm trying to figure out how I can explain this without giving away any spoilers. Let me put it this way. Her as a child, she had kind of a rough childhood, and there were characters that I needed to establish these characters in order to bring them up in the last book. So these are characters from her childhood. So that's where Fundamental Affair comes in. Fundamental Affair is basically her childhood. And you get to see exactly how she grew up. So it can be read either right before Forbidden Affair. So right before Forbidden Affair, you can read Fundamental Affair. Or you can read Fundamental Affair right after Family Affair. Because Fundamental Affair brings up characters that are going to be in Fruitful Affair. And that's how that happened. And I've got it to where the third book can be, the first book or the third book. It really doesn't matter. It's totally up to the reader on how they want to do that. In a way, it's more like a choose your own adventure type thing, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so in that sense, I do have the extra in case I need that for any reason at all. I do feel like I can always add that in later. And that's kind of a fun thing for me, where I'll just, randomly sneak a book in because, it was something fun for me to write because I wasn't done with the characters yet. And I think it's fun for the reader as well to go ahead and, get a little extra sense of who the characters actually are in order to give it a little something extra, I guess you could say. Okay, and then the next 4 tabs are my main characters. And these are the character backstories, I guess you could say. These backstories are their childhood stories, so you get to see their parents, their siblings, how they grew up, their first victim. It goes through and basically gives you a sense of who these characters are. Now, granted, most of this is specifically for me. So I know who these characters are. I can get to understand their personality. I'll get to understand their personality. I'll get to understand where it's coming from. So when I'm writing them, when they're choosing their victim, killing their victim, I know exactly where it's going to go because I have their story. So I know how I know who they are. I have to know who the characters are in order for the reader to know who the characters are. So once I know who the characters are, the readers will understand who the characters are, and they'll get a sense of, I know these people. And that's always the best way to do your writing. You want to make sure that your readers know who your characters are. So this is specifically for me. Some of it's going to make it into the book. Some of it is not. It does help me when I'm writing the character if I have some stuff that I can go ahead and bring in to add to the character just a little bit in the story. So they become real to the reader. You got to make sure that they become real to the reader. Now, there are pages for each one of the books. So book 1 is blue. So this is who the killer is in book 1. Now, in book 2, their demeanor will change. Maybe their personality changes just a little bit. As the series grows, the characters grow, so they change just a little bit. And you have to realize that there's these little things that the characters will go through. They have like the inciting incidents that happen. Like Killer 1 says that his personality is relaxed and laid back. Well, if he has a victim that gets away, he's no longer relaxed and laid back. He's now stressed out and high strung. However that works for him. And you'll be able to see the differences in each book. And maybe he has a better, in book 2, he has a better killing spree or whatever he's doing. So in book 3, he goes back to that relaxed and laid back and everything's cool and everything's fine type of thing. So I've got all the pages here, and it does go up to book 5 if I need it, because there is the green and then the pink. So it does go up to book 5 just in case I have to go there. And then, of course, we've got Killer 2 and all of their pages for the books, and then Killer 3. And you can always tell by how much information you have for each character is depending on who's going to be the main focus in each book. You want to make sure that you have enough information for which characters you're going to showcase in those books. Now, you can do, like, I have 4 books because, like you saw, Killer 4 is showcased the most in book 1. So Killer 4 is going to be the most showcased. Killer 3 is going to be right behind him. Killer 2 and then Killer 1. And it's going to go that way. So then that means that maybe book 2, it's going to showcase a different killer. So it's going to be a little different that way. Plus you'll be able to, your outlining process really needs to get you to know who your killers are. Characters. I'm killers all around. But your outline needs to be for you to get to know who your characters are so that your reader can get to know who your characters are. I do have quite a bit more to go. And if you want to see any videos of me going through the outlining process where I'm actually sitting down and doing some of that, because I do have a lot more that needs to go on there, because like on my Post-its here, you can see that I have section 1 and my book 1 is empty. So I need to write on that page, and I've kind of kept it blank so that I can go ahead and do that here with you guys. And so I need to get section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, and section 5. I need to get those pretty much written out so that I have a sense of what I'm doing when I start writing the book. Now, I'm not going to start writing this until the beginning of the year, only because I've got Family Affair coming out in August. I've got Fundamental Affair that I am editing and trying to get to my beta readers, so that while my beta readers have Fundamental Affair, I can finish writing Fruitful Affair and start my first round of edits on Fruitful Affair. And then once I get Fundamental Affair back from my beta readers, I can send Fruitful Affair to my beta readers. And I have realized, out of how many times I have said each one of these book names, that it is very difficult to stay in line with what I'm going for here. And the Killer Suburbia series is actually going to be a little easier on me for the titles. So we've got Forbidden Affair is number 1, Family Affair is number 2, Fundamental Affair is number 3, and Fruitful Affair is number 4. And that was my thing. I thought it was funny, haha, that they all start with an F, and it's the Affair series, so it's Affair. And I realize at this point, I really like the titles. I have no problem with the titles. It all goes in a line. It's in the Affair series. Everybody knows. But for me to constantly say each book's name, and for me to get through where, I'm sitting there and I'm writing in there, edit FA. Well, which FA am I editing? So I realized that for me, that was probably not the best choice. But, you live, you learn, you move on. The next series is going to have better titles. I love the titles. I have no problem with the titles. I know that they're in the Affair series, and that's on me. But from there, I will need to change, get a little better with titling my books. That's probably the one thing that I have a really hard time doing, is actually trying to figure out a title for my book, apparently. But, the titles are nothing. You really want the covers to, they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but everybody does. So you need your covers to grab your reader. And in this light, let me see if I can switch these just a little bit, because this one for some reason came out a little darker than I wanted it to. But you know what? It's not as dark as it looks on camera. In real life, it's actually not as dark. It's a little more greenish and reddish if you ask me. But it's actually not that bad. I actually really, really, really love this cover, considering how many photos we took. 20 photos to get one that we could use, which seems like a lot, but it's kind of hard to do when you're not actually missing a leg and you're attempting to sit in a chair and make both of your legs look identical. I'm just saying. So this is me. I have a photographer that takes my photos. I do go in and actually edit them and, everything else. I do all of that. But anyway, I'm getting off track again. So, Killer Suburbia is going to have better titles. And not only that, but I will actually ask for advice, I guess you could say. Suggestions. That's the word I'm looking for. I'll probably ask for suggestions. I'll read you the synopsis and see if anybody comes up with good suggestions in the comments or anything like that. But the series is Killer Suburbia. So that's basically, and it's going to have where it's going to be like the title of the book, and then there'll be a subtitle down underneath where it'll be the Killer Suburbia series, or like book 1 in the Killer Suburbia series. But like these here, because I wasn't expecting it to be a series, there isn't a series number, and none of them have series numbers on them at all. I did, on this one, I did put a number 2 right there, but it looked weird because the other one didn't have one, and because Fundamental Affair can be read either first or third, I didn't see the point in putting the numbers there. Now, not to sound biased or anything, but I think the books are good. But I'm just biased, Anyway, You can always figure that out for yourself. They are available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Shameless plug. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I don't want to have like a 45-minute video or anything like that. So if you are ready to get your book started or series, and you are wanting to see how I do things, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell. You'll be notified every Monday when I post a video. I will start doing some challenges in the beginning of the year when I start writing, and when I start writing the new series. And I'll start doing some challenges where we're going to do like 5,000 words in a day. So I'll post a video every single day for like a whole week. And then at the end of the week on Friday, it won't be a video that'll be posted, but I'll do a live video instead. So we can talk and have a conversation and everything else. Otherwise, I will post all the links to my social media below. I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I'm more active on Instagram. Just so everybody's aware of that, I figured I'd just throw that out there. Twitter, not so much, unless somebody @s me on Twitter. Otherwise, I'm more on Instagram. Facebook, you kind of have to get lucky with the algorithm, I guess, whatever Facebook does. I don't pay for ads on Facebook, and that's just my personal preference. I always just hope one day that Facebook will realize that, just do, if people like your page, show them what you've got. But of course, people have like 600 friends, so it gets lost in the feed. Instagram's a little bit better because people can follow hashtags, and I will tell you that it took me a little while to figure out the hashtags. I didn't understand that, but of course, I'm from a time where a hashtag was a £sign or a number symbol. So hashtags are a good thing. I'm going to put it that way. Hashtags are a good thing. And I have something in my eye. Anyway, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can see a lot of stuff on Instagram. I do post different on Facebook and Instagram, so you will see 2 different posts. I'll leave links to those in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!